What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Dollars Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, we had the Honda or the Cognizant at PGA National. Joe Highsmith pulling out the win. Overall thoughts on the week? Questions, comments, concerns?
Well, couldn't have started any better with a 59 from Jake Knapp. One of our buddies, you know who you are if you're listening, shouted out that he's like, I can't believe there's only like 15 sub 60 rounds. I know what he meant, but the way it came off was hysterical to us.
Wording's important. Yeah, that was poor choice in the way he verbalized it.
But. Yeah, on a course like this, that's really, really hard. Conditions were a little softer on Thursday, which led to some scoring, but overall good week. I think this event loses a lot of steam from the casual golfer because Honda Classic has been a staple. So if you're just a random Joe Schmo on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and you're flipping through channels, you might not even know what the Cognizant is. Like you don't know that's the Honda. That's a really big downfall. No disrespect to Joe Highsmith or Bridgman, who finished second. But I think we're in a weird stage of golf because of, this is a hot topic, and I know I'm very unpopular when it comes to this, but we need to stop making more golf because it's becoming less fun to watch.
It's almost watered down to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, like once PGA and Live come together, I think it'll start to mend things, but they're still going to have their own tours. So you're adding another tour where you're drawing people away. You have TGL, which I have not watched a second of it, but I will abstain from watching that garbage. If you like it, good for you, but it's inaccurate simulator golf that doesn't do anything for me. So you're pulling guys over there. I don't know.
I don't hate the TGL. It's fine for like a Tuesday night deal. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I happen to see it in passing, I'll watch it a little bit. Nothing crazy though. Back to the Honda or PGA National. So Joe Highsmith, one thing to note, he actually made the cut on the number, which was kind of crazy. He obviously went on to go win the golf tournament. He was not in the lead, obviously, to start Sunday. Jack mentioned that Jake Knapp started in the lead, and he looked at me, or he texted me at the start of the day Sunday. He's like, I will put $1,000 that Jake Knapp is not winning this golf tournament.
That is not true.
$100. Sorry,
$100. No. I would bet my life savings.
Oh, well, all right. Whatever.
On Jake Knapp. Now, some books used to have like not win. My God, I would have put every dollar I've ever seen in my life on Jake Knapp. Every dollar.
The point being is Jack was not high on him. One thing about Joe Highsmith, he actually gained 6 strokes with the putter. That is the most strokes he had ever gained with the putter on a PGA Tour event. He had been changing his putter grip for the better part of the last year. And it seems like he found something this past week. We'll see if it continues. He's going to need to do it consistently, but he's like claw grip, reverse claw. He's done everything under the sun trying to figure out his putter grip. So congratulations on the win. Outside of him, I mean, you got Henley, who I think was T6. You have Shane Lowry, who was T11. So both guys kind of.
Forget Spieth.
Yeah, Spieth's in there too. That's true. I forgot about him. Yeah. I felt bad because he was one of the guys I wasn't super high on betting last week, and he actually did well. One of the few, it happens. But overall, a really interesting week. Some of the notable guys that missed the cut last week, though, or this past week, Thorbjorn Olesen, Benny Ahn, Sung Jae Im, Austin Eckroat, Kurt Kitayama, Cam Young, Taylor Pendrith, and everybody's fan favorite, Kevin Kisner. Some of the best low-priced options that we were all over. Chris Ventura, who was super cheap, finished T56. Quade Cummins finished T32. Ryan Gerard finished T25. Billy Horschel finished T25. Luke Clanton was technically in the 7K range, so I'm going to count it. He was T18. Jack was all over Nikolai Hoyard, who was T18. I also called out avoiding Cam Young and Sung Jae Im. Again, I didn't like Spieth, but he was the exception of those three, so we'll take it.
I also called out Doug Gim, who finished 11th. So
True. I forgot Doug Gim because you don't put any of it in your notes.
It's too much work.
I know. In terms of notable misses, I like Benny On. He missed the cut. I like Davis Thompson. He missed the cut. And then I wasn't high on Spieth, and he finished, again, T11. So if those are my three misses outside of my, 8 or 9 hits, that's pretty good odds, all things considered. With that, let's look at how our DraftKings and FanDuel lineups did. Jack, how did DraftKings do last week, or do you want me to go first?
DraftKings went really well. I got good score. I had Pearson Cooney miss the number on the spot, or on the mark number,
Yep.
whatever it's called, and at 18, 32, 18, 11, and 25. So we cashed in. I mean, those are really good, all things considered, because you had a lot of guys that were highly owned in a lot of contests. And a lot of the guys that placed really well weren't really highly owned. So you really snuck away and you kind of bit the bullet on this one.
Yeah. No, I get that. For my DraftKings lineup, I had Shane Lowry, T11, Minwoo Lee, T11, Kitayama miscut, Glover miscut, Ryan Gerard, T25, and then Ventura, who finished T56. I think I was the last guy in double ups who made money, and then I didn't make money on single entries. So could be worse. As far as FanDuel, Jack, what are we looking at?
Really the same thing. Actually, relatively better, all things considered. I had Roy, who missed the cut. I took a flyer on him. He finished at 3 under for the week, just one short, 2. But I had Spieth. I had Minwoo, 9th place, 11th place, Højgaard at 18th, Harman 32, and Keith at 42nd. So I was up there everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good play right there. My FanDuel lineup was super similar to my DraftKings lineup. So again, Lowry T11, Minwoo Lee T11. I had Benny On, who missed cut, Kurt Kitayama, who missed cut, Quade Cummins, who finished T32, and then Chris Ventura, who finished T56. Same thing as DraftKings. Made money on double ups, lost money on single entries, but nevertheless, it works. Jag, this will be one that you're excited for. How did your bets do last week?
Well, for the second time in 4 weeks, we have a sweep. The other two were not so good. We're not so pretty, but we're back. This week went up 8.75 units, which is wonderful. So we had a 10-unit play on Nikolai Højgaard to make the cut at minus 200, which was a ridiculous offering, and I took advantage of that. We had Brian Harman top 40, finished, I'm going to say 32nd, which was really good. His accuracy numbers were really good. That was at plus 115. And then Nikolai Højgaard doubled up on him, being the top Danish, over Thorbjorn, who missed the cut, and Nicholas Norgard, who was up there for a little bit, but that was at plus 260. So we are officially back in green numbers, 3.13 for the year.
Yeah, I think they ended up finishing one shot apart. And I think it was because Norgard bogeyed 2 of the last 3 holes, which is kind of great.
It was beautiful.
So that worked out quite well for you. As far as my bets go, I went 3 for 5, nothing fancy. Up 1.01 units on the week. My losses were Benny On over Sung Jae Im and KH Lee. None of them made the cut, which feels kind of criminal, but I guess Sung Jae Im was 4 under. I think Benny On was 2 under, and then KH Lee was 1 under, so they were all super close. I had Rio Hitsasune over Rikuya Hoshino. Rio finished at minus 4 on Friday. Rikuya finished at 5 under, and then obviously Saturday Rikuya ended up pushing up the leaderboard before he kind of dropped back down to earth. So that was also a loss. I had Minwoo Lee over Ryan Fox at minus 110. That was a win. I had Seb Straka over Sung Jae Im at plus 105. That was a win. And then I had Keith Mitchell over Cam Young at plus 105. That was also a win. So with being up 1.1 units or 1.01 units, I am now up 15.85 units on the year, which is a nice little number. So just got to keep that going.
Let's go.
So wild cards, Jack. How'd your wild card do?
I had Kashmir Keith top 10, which looked great until Sunday when he had a temper tantrum. I don't know what the heck happened to him, but
yeah, it was a weird one for sure. Yeah, he shot one over, even par on Sunday, something like that. So
good.
Ooh, yikes. Okay. For my wildcard pick, I had Billy Horschel top 20 at plus 225. He was on the first page of the leaderboard there, I think, at one point in time on Sunday. But he finished T25. Unfortunately, he was one shot off of that top 20. So that was a loss for me. So I'm now eight wins, 10 losses on wildcards this year, which still is positive if you map it out that every wildcard's at least plus 200. So, all right, winners. How'd your winners do last week?
I had Lowry, Shane Lowry, and Doug Gim, who finished 11th, and Nikolai Højgaard, who finished 18th. I didn't see any single, even some of those that do like 15 winners where they pick 8% of the field.
Yeah.
No one had Highsmith. I even looked on Twitter. I'm like, did anybody have Highsmith? Didn't see a mention of him. So I don't think anybody got that right this week.
No, that makes sense. That's funny then, because I had Seb Straka on mine, who was T11, Alex Smalley, who finished T18, and then Billy Horschel, who was T25. So we had 5 of our 6 winners picks finish in the top 20, and the only one that didn't finish top 20 was Billy Horschel, who again was T25. So it wasn't like he played poorly. So that's funny. We hopefully you guys followed our winners picks, maybe used those as bets, and then you won a good amount of money if you did that. That's for sure. So. Sweet. All right. With that, that is the Arnold Palmer. Any other thoughts, Jack? Or that is the Cognizant. We are moving on to the Arnold Palmer, unless you have any other thoughts.
I forgot to wear my Arnold Palmer polo for this.
Amateur hour. Come on, Jack. All right. With that, Arnold Palmer Invitational. We are at Bay Hill. This is a par 72 totaling 7,450 yards. One of the first things I saw when I looked at Bay Hill is there's a major, and I mean a major, missed fairway penalty at this course. It's much more of a penalty here than at most courses on tour. The rough, therefore, is going to be brutal. That's why there's such that penalty. Some fairways are only 17 to 19 yards wide, and that's like at 300 yards out. Which is going to really challenge golfers. The solution is that it's really good to have like high club head speed. It's a bit of a headache of a stat to work through for that personally, but I think driving accuracy combined with approach and then obviously distance is going to also help immensely on that. Around the green play is pretty mitigated at a course like this, and then putting can occasionally be streaky, but it's nice to have a decent putter. So again, approach and then driving distance, hinting on driving accuracy. You'd love to have a good putter if possible. All right. With that, Jack, are we getting into the price points?
Let's do it.
All right. We got Scotty Scheffler, 12,000, Rory at 10.8, Xander Schauffele at 10.1.
I personally don't know why Xander is up here. He obviously has missed every single event since the Century because of that rib injury, and he's even come out and said, I'm not 100% yet. I'm not 100% yet. And the last 2 starts he's had have been 41st in the Zozo, where he should have dominated, and 30th in the Century, which he should have mass beat that. So he's inconsistent to start the year. He's talked about an injury and not feeling 100%, and you're telling me he's the 3rd most expensive guy. I think you have to avoid him this week. Now, Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler have, Scotty's gone 1-4-1 in the last 3 years, and Rory McIlroy has won this event before and obviously finished runner-up 2 years ago. So these 2 guys are always going to contend, always going to play well in this event. I think Rory McIlroy is playing some of the best golf we've seen, and obviously you can't cut out Scotty Scheffler in the slightest, but still, with that being said, I probably would lean Rory over Scotty this week for 2 reasons. One is pricing, and Rory's been the far more consistent golfer. Now, if you're just a layman and you just look at like stats or recent form or average finish or whatnot, you'll probably think that Scotty Scheffler has done better outside of Rory's win. Scotty Scheffler's making some horrific course management mistakes. Horrific. This is an event that you just talked about that will expose that. Now, granted, he has throttled that in the past and has won by like 5 shots and all these wins. So I'm not dismissing that. But the last 3 starts that he's had, categorical mistakes on courses that you could get penalized and could not get penalized on. And I think that this isn't a week. I don't know if you can get to Scotty Scheffler at 12K more so than a guy $1,200 below him.
It's funny because I actually think Scotty is almost low priced, but I think the issue is that there's too many people in DraftKings that are too low of price. I think that Rory should be higher. I think that obviously not Xander. I agree. I think Xander is mispriced at 10-1 because of the rib injury. But I think Scotty should be 12-5, maybe 12-8 even, and I don't think that would be out of the question. But yeah, my biggest complaint on Scotty, I think 12,000 is a steal. I think it's too low. He was 12,000 also at the Genesis in a much weaker field. He was also 12,100 at the Waste Management, again, weaker field. I think he'll be great for this course otherwise. I'm not really concerned with any of the issues you mentioned. He's won here in 2 of the last 3 years, and he's never finished worse than T15 here in all 4 starts. I basically see that same thing happening again when it comes to Scotty. As far as Rory goes, for as good as Scotty has been here, Rory's probably the one guy that can match it. He's played here 10 times. He's got 6 top 10s, no finish worse than T27. On top of that, he's also got 2 wins in his last 4 starts. If you're a data nerd, you're going to be like, well, he's played in the TGL 3 times. That doesn't count. I'm not counting the TGL. Bay Hill is probably the course that Rory is best at in the world. Maybe Quail Hollow?
It's Quail Hollow.
Is it? It's close. It's close. It's close.
It is not close.
Okay. Well, I think Bay Hill is a lot higher up than Jack does, but again, it's probably top 2 for him. And again, outside of him at Bay Hill or Quail Hollow, I don't really know too many people outside of Tiger who has better correlation on a course than Rory does at here in Quail. So I like Rory this week. I think at 10,800, he's a great price point, especially if you want to save $1,200. Xander, again, I think it's going to be interesting. He's coming back from the rib injury. I think he's going to do all right, but I don't really see the reason to rely on him based on his price point. I think that guys around him are going to be better options. He's probably going to finish somewhere in the realm of like a T30, which again is fine, but I think you get more upside otherwise with other guys. So, do you want to rank these top 3, Jack? Or you got any other thoughts?
No, I have other thoughts. I want you to know that Rory McIlroy has 4 wins at Quail Hollow and 5 other top 10s and 13 career starts. So he is far and ahead playing better at Quail Hollow.
He's got 6 top 10s and 10 starts here.
Okay, well then he's got 9 top 10s and 13 starts, including 4 wins. That's way better. There's no argument.
All right, whatever.
Rory, Scotty, Xander. That's it for me.
No worse start than 27 though in 10 starts. I feel like he's gotten worse than 27 there. Whatever. It's besides the point.
You're on your own little island over there.
Yeah, it can be Quail Hollow and Bay Hill. The point being is that Rory's really good at those 2 courses particularly. For me, I think I'm going Rory, then Scotty, then Xander. I don't know if you said that or not, but
yep.
Sweet. All right, so we're in agreement there. All right, on to the 9K range. We got Ludwig Aubert at 9,900 down to Sam Burns 9,000.
Ludwig Aubert. Let's talk about an event that's curated for a guy. That's all I got to say. This guy is going to come out and smoke everybody. I think he wins by 3 shots.
Oh. Okay.
That's all I got to say.
Interesting. All right. No, I agree. I think he's far and away the best option in this range. He's played here twice, has finished as T24 and T25. Take away his illness that he had a few weeks back, and he's got no finish worse than T17 since before the Tour Championship. So he's just been playing lights out. So I think he's far and away the best option. I think, there's a few other guys to highlight for good and bad reasons. You got Colin Morikawa, who, again, I talked earlier, approach play and driving are going to be important, and he kind of highlights that. But something about Bay Hill kind of scares Colin. He's actually missed the cut here in back-to-back starts and only has 1 top 50 finish here in all 4 of his starts. He's also lost a total of 14 strokes with the putter across those 4 starts as well here at Bay Hill. I'm going to avoid him this week just because of that. For whatever reason, the putting at Bay Hill just seems to terrify him, and he can't figure out how to make pars or birdies at this course. So I'll mention Justin Thomas as well. I have concerns with his putter as well this week. He's had good finishes here of T12, T21, T49, but he's also never gained with the putter here at Bay Hill, and he's lost strokes putting in 5 of his last 7 starts as well. Because of that, I will also be avoiding him. Then you got Hideki Matsuyama, who has struggled off the tee since leaving Hawaii. He's actually lost strokes gained off the tee in 4 straight starts. He's got an average record here to a pretty good record, I guess you could say. He's got 5 T20s, but he's also got a few missed cuts and 2 other finishes outside of top 40. I think he'll probably do like the third best in this group behind Ludwig and the guy I'll mention next. But don't forget, Hideki also always has his injury challenges where he seems to pop out and get injured every couple weeks. And he's been pretty healthy the last like 7 or 8 starts. So he's probably due based on his logic. So last guy I'll mention, and then Jack can go. Tommy Fleetwood. He's been a top 20 machine the past 6 months, gained in all strokes gained categories outside of putting in every event since August. Bear in mind that 7 of those were starts on the European Tour. In that stretch of 10 starts, he has no finish worse than T22. And then if you look at his Bay Hill history, he's kind of all over the place. He's got a couple top 20s, I think 4 of those. He's also got a missed cut, but that's an 8 starts. So overall, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I like Tommy. I think this is going to be a strong week for him. His odds have shifted like 10%. So lock him in now if you're interested in him. Yep. I also think this can be a very sneaky week for Patrick Cantlay. Nobody their third cousin is talking about Patrick Cantlay, and he's been playing very, 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 very quietly good. Since the Tour Championship, he's got 13, 17, 11, 15, 5, 33, and 5. And you're all talking about some really good courses with super good fields. This is an event he's only played twice with 36 and a 4th place finish. And the one place he lost was actually around the green, which is really uncategoristic of Patrick Cantlay, especially in his recent form. So 36 with losing shots around the green is probably not going to happen again. And Patrick Cantlay is, in terms of data-wise, very, 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 very consistent. Tee to green, green to fairway, or fairway to green, and putt. So I think if he can actually gain strokes with the putter, he should be able to finish in the top 25 relatively easy. And I think this is going to be a really good week for Patrick Cantlay. So I don't think a lot of people are talking about him.
I just think because of how he plays, where he doesn't put together 4 good rounds, he's probably I would lock him in for a T15 to a T25 anytime. I think that'll be a very common landing spot for Cantlay. And not that it's not good, but because he can't lock together 4 good rounds, I almost feel like the winning upside is mitigated with him. Whereas like with Ludwig, you get the winning upside. With Fleetwood, I think you get top 5 upside. So I almost wonder if he's kind of the safe option.
Well, I mean, Cantlay has 2 top 5s in his last 3 starts. So
yeah, he might end up being good here. But again, he doesn't excite me. He seems to always find a way to either not have a good
anybody, but nerds and degenerates like me who love analyzing that stuff.
True. He just he's either got a bad putting week or bad off the tee week or bad approach week or one of them every week, it feels like. But he still plays well, which is weird. All right. With that in mind, you got a top 3 for this range?
Yeah, I actually think it's Ludwig. I think Cantlay has the ability to do it. Again, if we're looking at the ceiling. And I do think Hideki has a good opportunity to kind of steal some strokes here comparatively to the field. But I don't personally see him catapulting a top 5. But I also don't know if I see a lot of these guys in this range breaking that mark either.
Yeah, I agree. I think my list is probably Ludwig, Fleetwood, and then maybe Hideki, maybe Cantlay. That one is 50-50 for me on which one I like more. Really, if possible, I'd love to just stick with Ludwig and Fleetwood if possible.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that, into the 8K range we go. Sung J M at 8,900 down to Robert McIntyre at 8,000.
Very small grouping, all things considered, for an 8K range. I think this is a range that you can fairly confidently avoid. At least from my perspective, you have guys that have played well historically, but you also have guys that in their recent form are inconsistent at best. A lot of these guys that have good finishes here at Bay Hill have also equally terrible finishes. I mean, if you look at Will Zalatoris, who I think was it last year or 2 years ago, had a top 6 performance here, and played out of his mind. I think he shot like 9 under, 10 under, 11 under, something to that nature. historically, Will Zalatoris doesn't do that. You have Russell Henley, who at his tracks does really well. You have Maverick McNeely, who really does well, tee to green. Daniel Berger, who's really come about lately. Victor Hovland, who you never know what you're going to get. It's so inconsistent for me that I literally do not have anyone in DFS or bets, winners, wild cards from this range at all. It is a complete black hole for me.
I will say this. I agree to an extent. I have like 1.5 guys that I like in this range. And again, it's maybe like more 1.25. But I'll start off. If you can avoid, or Sung Jae Im will be an interesting one. He actually gained on ball striking last week. So that was the first time he did that in over 5 starts. But even though he gained on approach and off the tee, he actually lost with the putter and around the green. So he seemed to just kind of flip-flop what he was struggling with for whatever reason. Since the start of the year, he's got 1 T4 finish at the Farmers and otherwise has not been in the top half of any of the fields that he's been in. I have to say that because he was in one of the no-cut events where he finished like T45 out of like 72 guys. So again, not top half. He's all, the one thing is that he's never finished worse than T21 here in 6 starts. So he actually plays really well here, but honestly, he's probably too scary to rely on right now, so I wouldn't go to it. If you want to be different, nobody in their right mind that actually follows golf is going to pick Sung Jae right now based on how he's been playing. So he's a good option to go to if you want a good differential. Victor Hovland, you kind of mentioned it. Call me a sicko, but his ball striking has actually been pretty good. He's around the green play and his putting still leave a lot to be like concerned over, which I get. But he has gained with the putter here 4 times and has gained down approach here all 5 times that he's played. Let me be abundantly clear. I don't love him this week, but I can see a route where he finishes top 30 in this field. Again, he's got 5 starts here. He's got 2 top 40 finishes. His other finish was like a T42. So he's made the cut every time. He's basically finished no worse than 40 every time. It's viable if you really wanted to go to Hovland.
I'm not saying that these guys can't finish it. It's just I don't have a high confidence in staking any of them.
Yeah, the one saving grace about Hovland is that he's never missed a cut here, and that he basically will finish top 40. Would you love a little bit more from 8,300? Ideally, but I mean the safety valve of the top 40 at that kind of a price is not something that I would hate. I actually like Shane Lowry probably the most in this range. He might have had the quietest T11 of all time last week. He shot himself out of winning on Saturday, but still gained 5.5 strokes on approach. He has 6 starts here. In the first 4 years, he actually missed a cut in all of them. But that was up until 2021. Since then, he has a 67th, which was 2 years ago, and then a 3rd place maybe last year. Don't quote me if that was 2 and 3 years ago, but his last 2 starts were 67th and 3rd. He's also gained off the tee, on approach, and putting in both of those performances. So he seems to have kind of figured out and maybe gotten the jitters out of the way of Quail Hollow. I'm very comfortable going back to him, especially based on his current form. Cool. All right. With that, do you have it? I mean, you don't really have a top 3 for this range. Yeah, you don't like anybody.
Top 1.
I'd go Lowry, and then again, if you're a sicko, you can go Hovland as a differential pick, but Lowry or bust, in my opinion, on this range. All right, into the 7K range we go. We've got Tom Kim 7,900 down to, is that Cam Young? Yeah, that's Cam Young at 7,000. I didn't know if Carson Young snuck in somehow.
That's funny. Shout out Carson Young, your dog. Number 1 for me, Corey Connors. Even though Corey Connors is dipping, he has looked awful lately up until Genesis, where I think he actually played really, really well. Historically, once he actually broke through and made a cut in 2021, he's gone 3, 11, 21, and 18. And his strokes gain numbers have been off the chart, averaging over a shot around and almost 2 shots around in a majority of his cases on approach. Putting is the big worry from him, and that's been a really big career trend of his. But in 2 of his last 5 starts, he's gained on putting tremendously, including at the Century. We actually gained 2 strokes. So it was actually really, really well done. I think that this is an event that at 7,800, Corey Connors is absolutely mispriced. Granted, with recent form, he probably should be here. But I think in terms of the mold and the data, I think 7,800 is an egregious price for him, and I'm targeting him. And then I honestly think this might be an Aaron Rye kind of a week, although it's very iffy to go to. If you're talking about a guy that's just the model of consistency for accuracy, he led the PGA Tour in green and regulation percentages for the longest time. Historically has done really well in terms of data metrics all over the place. The only time he's lost more than one shot in any category was at the Farmers, where he lost 3.52 on approach. That was like, when I say it's uncategoristic, the next worst of the last calendar 2 years was minus 1.19 shots total at a course in Spain. So, like, the comparison is off the chart. I think that even though he's trash here historically, you can see rebuttal, and Aaron Rye, I think, is really mispriced. So you can target him.
Yeah, I actually don't hate Aaron Rye either, as funny as it sounds. Let's not forget he finished T4 at Mexico. He gained over 9 strokes on approach in Mexico. He's not going to do that again, but again, he will probably gain on approach based on what Jack said. Takeaways around the green play where he's just not good around the green. And he's a golfer probably worthy of an 8K price point based on his recent form. He's going in the 7K range. I think his ball striking alone will probably help him make the cut here. I see like a T40 probably in Aaron Rye's future. I think that would make a lot of sense. I highlighted this in my notes while Jack was talking. Jack's high on Corey Connors. I actually like Michael Kim. Are you down, Jack, to do a head-to-head Corey Connors versus Michael Kim? See who does better? Yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, like taking candy from a baby. There you go. All right, we'll give Michael Kim his flowers here. Since Phoenix, he's gained in all strokes gained categories in every event he's been in. That's 4 straight finishes of T13 or better at that. He hasn't played at Bay Hill since 2019, but in his 2 starts, he had a T17 and a missed cut. I wouldn't look too deep into the history because, again, it's been like 6 years. But Michael Kim has been on a heater of heaters, so I would go to him. There's Ben Griffin, who I think is the same price as him. I'm convinced there's nobody better in the world at like backdooring a top 5 finish than Ben Griffin. I mean, that guy is the champion of shooting 7 under on a Sunday to end up like in the mix per se, but when in reality we know he's not winning it at that point. He's gained on approach in 8 of his last 10 starts. He's also gained in all strokes gained categories in 3 straight starts, and he finished T14 here in his lone start here in 2023. I think he's a solid to great option this week, especially again at a price point of 7,600. I'm going to highlight Minwoo Lee as well. He's now picked up strokes gained approach in 3 of his last 4 starts and 5 of his last 8 starts. If he continues with that trend, I mean, top 20 golfer in the world, probably. Like, that was always his big challenge coming out, was that he would not do well with approach. If he's doing well with approach, then he's got a chance to make many more cuts, continue to play better, and get a couple wins out there. He does have some rough history here. He's got a T44 and 2 missed cuts. So I don't know if I'd go to him necessarily this week, maybe, but keep an eye on Minwoo, because I could very easily see him again gaining on approach this week and finishing, T40, similar to like an Aaron Rye. And then last guy I'll mention, Harris English. I won't highlight too much on him, but he does have great history here, and he tends to play best on courses where the winning score isn't 30 under. If you look at his history of winning, he usually wins on courses where he can shoot 15-ish under or so. And that will probably be the API here, right? I don't really see it getting below 18 to 20 under.
Oh my God, no.
I'm just double checking.
Scotty has a crazy, what's funny? Scotty is a crazy one, but the guy that we were just talking about, Matt Every, has a crazy record. He was like 16 under here in 2013, I want to say, when he won it, and he was stretched throughout the field. This is not going to get to 20 under. No way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure, because I was going to say 15, and then I was like, nah, there had to have been a couple winners in the last like 8 years at 15 under or close. So I went up to 20. Harris English is a viable option, albeit probably not my first option, but he's solid. So anybody else stand out for you in this 7K range, or are we going on to the 6s?
I like the 6K range, so I'm here.
All right. Patrick Rogers at 6,900 down to, wow, Eric Cole is the minimum price. The mighty have fallen. Okay.
Number 1, Christian Bezuidenhout. Lock this guy in. He dominates here at Bay Hill, all things considered, in 5 starts. He's only missed 1 cut, 44, 27, and 18 otherwise. He has been playing some crazy sneaky golf. The only thing that he's really sucked at considerably has been approach, and it's always right around scratch. So, I mean, there's like Amex, he's 1.53, Genesis 1.23, talking about major style courses. Everywhere else, he seems to dominate on the approach play. So for me, this isn't really a cause for concern. Putting and accuracy for him are 2 games that he plays really, really well. And the reason I say Christian Bezuidenhout is, number 1, there's 2 reasons for a steal for me. Number 1, he's played here relatively a lot compared to the field. He's played here well, but most importantly, he is so consistent. I don't see this event getting to even 16 under. So if you're telling me a guy at 6,500 that can get you 8 under in a tournament, I'm taking that every single day and twice on Sundays. Although I think he will exceed that. I think there is a good chance, and I'm staking this, that we see him top 15 come Sunday. I genuinely believe that. Brian Harman, on the other hand, as well, is one of those guys too that plays. He's been really accurate. I don't know why I'm dying all of a sudden, but I talked about him in great length last week. He came out and crushed that number. In his last 3 starts, he's 25, 17, and 32. He's been really, really good. He has historically sucked here at API, missing 3 of his last 4 cuts, but he finished 12th here last year. The big difference for him, which is blowing my mind, if you really look down the list, he's lost in approach. And he's gained on it was like some stat, it was like 33 of his last 34 starts he's gained on approach. Like the only other miss was the Masters. It was some crazy metric like that. So Brian Harman, I think if he can figure it out, and I think he's starting to put the pieces together again, maybe not what he was at the Open, which is what he's known for, but at $6,800, you're talking about a guy that is a model of consistency at this dirt cheap of a price. You have to lock that in.
Yeah, it's very interesting because in my research here for Bay Hill, Bez is one of the few guys that can contend. I say contend. I know he's not always like contended. Sometimes he's T20, but he's one of the few guys that hits the top of the leaderboard that doesn't do it at all. Like not at all, but like at all, because it's basically break even, like you said, on approach. His putter seems to carry him on these weeks, which is could be good, could be bad, depending on who you ask. But it continues to do well for him. So we will see if those continue for both of them. I'm going to highlight Nick Taylor. He's quietly been one of the better golfers on tour over the last 20 rounds. That's kind of a cherry pick stat. Because if you look at his last 5 starts, he's got T9, T25, T33, T12, and a first. He's also gained a combined 20 strokes on approach across those 5 starts. And he's also gained with the putter in 4 of those 5 starts. I think he's a steal at 6,700. I think he's likely to make the cut. In his 7 starts here, he's got 3 top 40s and 3 missed cuts. So he's a bit of an ebb and flow, but right now he's flowing. So just keep going with him. And I think he'll get you another probably top 40-ish at that point. I'm going to highlight Aldrich Potgieter. Back in the beginning, when I mentioned distance and ball speed, I mean, if you want distance and ball speed, say hello to your guy right here. In the past 3 starts, he's gained over 13 strokes off the tee. He's also gained with the putter in each of those starts. I think he's a fabulous option if you don't want to go with Nick Taylor. I think Aldrich Potgieter at 6,500 is a great one to go with.
This might be the first week I disagree with you about Potgieter, and I love Potgieter. If you follow this podcast, you will know I talked about him before you even knew his name was Aldrich. I'm on him. He's one of the most inaccurate golfers on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour. He's only gained positive inaccuracy in 2 of his last 17 starts. On top of that, even when he finished second at Mexico, he gained 0.05 shots an approach. With that, around the green, he's also lost in 3 of his last 5 starts. So metrics-wise, hold on, Potgieter is just abysmal in terms of a course that fits like this, where you have to play tee to fairway, fairway to green, and green to a putt. I know that sounds very elementary, but Aldrich Pocketer does not fit this course. And I love him. I've been a fan of his for actually a number of years, but I would stake my professional reputation that he does not play well here.
Well, I'll just say this. You talked about his around the green play being bad. And if we went by that metric, then like half of the guys we just mentioned on today would also fall in that metric of being bad around the green players. But that's the beauty of Bay Hill, is that like around the green play isn't really all as important as a lot of the other things when it comes to that stat. So I understand. I agree his accuracy is in. What's up?
It's more about the approach. He's lost on average about 1.4 shots around an approach since he's joined the PGA Tour, which is scary.
Well, I'm looking at his last 3 events, because outside of that, if he's played previous on the PGA Tour, that's like 8+ months ago at that point. Like I feel like he hadn't really played too frequently before recently, and he's gained in 2 of his last 3 starts on approach.
No.
I have 2 of his last 3. He gained minimally, but he gained.
0.05 at Mexico, minus 1.15 at Farmers, minus 1.52 at Amex, minus 2.18 at Sony.
Okay, I have it as 0.5, 0.25, but okay. Whatever. Regardless, I think that the important part is that he has the distance. Yes, the accuracy is not the best, but I think he might be able to literally just beat people by bombing at 330 yards off the tee. So I think with that in mind, I think he's a viable option this week, especially since he's 6,500. He is a good price point.
We might have to go with the another head-to-head with the South Africans, Bez and Pocketer.
All right, I'll add it to the lists. All right, tell me what your DraftKings and your FanDuel are looking like while I write this in.
Well, that would be good to have that ready to roll. My DraftKings starts up. Scotty Scheffler at 12,000. I had coin left over, and so I dug into Scotty Scheffler, even though I said Rory's better. I have Ludwig Aubert, who I think is going to win at 9,900. I have Corey Connors at 7,800. Brian Harman at 6,800, or 7,800. I have Nick Taylor at 6,700, who Liam talked about. Brian Harman 6,800, and Bez at 6,500.
Nice. For my DraftKings lineup, I have $200 left over, so I could theoretically change this a little bit, especially with my last guy. But I have Rory McIlroy at 10,800. I have Tommy Fleetwood at 9,100. I have Shane Lowry at 8,200. I have Michael Kim at 7,600. I have Ben Griffin at 7,600. And then right now I have Aldrich Potgieter at 6,500. Again, I could go up to Nick Taylor at 67. And I don't know if I want to do it. I'm 50-50 on it, because I almost want to stand firm on it just to spite Jack, because I think he's going to do well. But it's tempting for sure. So we'll see. I'll let you know by the end of the episode which one I determine.
You have 4 minutes. No, yeah, I'm just kidding around. Yeah, I like Nick Taylor. So FanDuel is pretty much a carbon copy. Scotty at 13,200, Ludwig Aubert 11,800, Corey Connors 9,600, Brian Harman 8,500, Nick Taylor 8,300, and then Bez at 8,100 rounded off. It's like carbon copy.
Yeah, that is almost identical. Okay. All right, I've already changed it. I'm going Nick Taylor at 67. It's fine. What?
Thank me later.
All right, yeah. Hey, if it ends up bad, and then I could just come on the podcast next week and trash Jack for convincing me to do that. For FanDuel, I have Rory McIlroy 12,600, Ludwig Aubert 11,800, Shane Lowry 9,800, Michael Kim 9,200, Aldrich Potgieter 8,400, Harris English 8,000. Cool. With that, on to bets.
I have 4.5.
Okay.
4 I like, and then I don't know if you've looked at the doc yet, but
yeah.
I have 1 I threw in there. So the 4 I'm betting, Ludwig Aubert, top 20 is minus 188. I'm sure that by the time that it comes to Thursday morning, this is going to be minus 300.
I think it's already minus 200.
Oh, well, yeah, it's going fast. So Monday night, lock this in if you're listening to it Tuesday morning. I think that he is going to steal this. I genuinely, I love him this week. I do have Cantlay top 20 at minus 115, how Liam talked about and kind of agreed with what I was saying. He's just really boring and good everywhere, not great in any aspect. 15 to 25 is in the cards, and we both said that. So if you're giving me 6 places, all things considered, on that, I'm taking that at minus 115. I'm sure if you look hard enough, there's probably some finishing position where you might be able to get him at like 21st or better. But in the reality of it, it's not going to end the bank. I have Christian Bezuidenhout top 40 at minus 200. I think those are really good odds for a guy that I think is going to surpass that. So I'm taking half a unit there when he wins. I do also have Brian Harman top 30 at minus 105. I think his biggest hurdle is just getting through those first 2 days. And I think once he finds his groove, he can kind of surpass on that with the accuracy numbers. No.
You said minus 105. You just said minus.
Whatever it was is what it's supposed to be. So
got it. All right. It's plus 105, not minus. Sorry.
And then the bet I almost took, which I don't get me wrong, I still have money on this, but for the podcast, it's Rory, Hideki, Colin, Aubert, or Scotty to get the W is plus 120. Now, Scotty and Rory have a combined 2 wins and a runner-up finish in the last 3 years. So there's a really good chance that either of those guys could do it.
Yep.
And I personally think Aubert is going to win.
It seems like you're convincing yourself that that's a bet you're going to end up taking.
Well, I already took it personally. No, I'm not going to take it professionally on here, even though it could. But I am not going to stake myself on that one here until it hits, and I'm taking credit for it.
Okay. Sounds good. You can take credit for it at that point in time then. All right, so you just got 4 bets this week?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, with that, I have 5 bets. The first one's going to be a fun one. It's technically our matchup anyway.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even see that.
It's Aldrich Potgieter over Christian Bezuidenhout. I got it at plus 115. My second bet is Ludwig Aubert over Colin Morikawa at minus 120. I have Michael Kim over Tom Kim at minus 110. I have Rory to finish top 20 in round 1 at minus 120. And then I have a yes to a hole-in-one. There's actually been a hole-in-one at the API in 3 of the last 5 years, and there wasn't one last year. I think we're kind of due for one. Again, I think it's a solid option, and in all honesty, I don't like a lot of the betting lines where it's like top 30, top 40. I think they're really poorly skewed.
Well, it is because the field is smaller, so.
Still.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
So, I mean, like, there's the amount of guys that are top 40, I think it's like 95% of the field that has minus top 40 odds, which just feels wrong. Doesn't feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck. So that was plus 120, by the way, for the hole-in-one. So those are my 5 bets. And then hopefully, again, even if Jack somehow gets the Bez over Potgieter bet, hopefully I can go 4 for 5 otherwise. So, sweet. Wild card, what you got?
I have, which is kind of ironic because I was just talking about it. Depending on the market you bet in, you can do winners without, meaning that, for example, mine is Ludwig to win without Scotty or Rory. So let's say Ludwig finishes second and Rory wins or Scotty wins. My bet's still going to win because this gambling is excluding Scotty and Rory. I personally think that Ludwig Aubert is going to win this event. Like I don't often say that. Like I don't often come out and say I genuinely believe someone can win this event. But there's also Scotty and Rory that live and exist in this world and have just dominated everything. So this is kind of taking out that what happens if Scotty Scheffler comes out and wins by 6 again, or what happens if Rory McIlroy continues to be the most consistent golfer on planet Earth and wins by 7. I think Ludwig Aubert takes it. So I'm taking that at 10 to 1 or plus 1,000 if you're not keeping score at home.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a fun one. Okay. For my wild card, I went a little different route. I'm taking an old head here at the API. Give me Adam Scott over Jason Day, Minwoo Lee, and Cam Davis. It's plus 230. If you want it in the sports books, it's top Australian. But again, I think we didn't really highlight it, but Adam Scott is a very good player when it comes to not having to shoot 30 under par. So I think he could contend with this group. I think Minwoo Lee might be dangerous. I don't really think Jason Day is personally I think his odds were the best amongst this group, and I don't know if I fully understand that based on how he's played. And I think he can beat Cam Davis. So if you're giving me basically more or less a head-to-head Minwoo versus Adam Scott plus 230, I'm here for it.
I like it.
Sweet. All right, on to winners. Who you got? Well, I know
This
who
is
you got.
going to become a shocker because I haven't said his name yet this week, but it's Ludwig Gobert, 19-1, which is actually really, really good considering how well he's played when he's not deathly ill. I think that this is a really good spot for him. 19-1, I'm taking that all day. I also have Corey Connors at 50-1. I think this is a spot where he can kind of come back to life, even though he's just been trash for the last like 5 out of 6 weeks. And then I was stuck between two other guys that I've already talked about, so I just bet them. It's Brian Harmon at 100-1, outrageous, and Christian Bezuidenhout at 125-1. So anyone, you'll probably see me cashing out on Saturday morning if both of those guys or either of those guys are in any way, shape, or form. But for right now, those are what I got.
There you go. For my winners picks this week, I stuck with the 3. First guy is going to be Rory McIlroy at 9-1. My second winner's pick is Tommy Fleetwood at 35-1. And then my third winner's pick, I was deciding between a few guys, but I went with Ben Griffin at 75-1. I don't know if he's going to win, but again, for a guy that backdoors top 10 finishes as much as he does, that would be great if Ben Griffin finished top 10 this week. So with that, that is the Arnold Palmer. Jack and I are not going to go over the Puerto Rico Open because it's the Puerto Rico Open. Sorry, not sorry. But Jack, do you have like a winner's pick or two that you want to just highlight?
Yeah, I have 2. I have Angel Ayoro. He is a 20-year-old monster. He is so good. He's one of the most underrated golfers in terms of a prospect. He's obviously not in kind of the mainstream area. He won on the Challenger Tour, finished 5th at Alfred Dunhill, 2nd at the Rolex, 6th at the BMW Australian, and 2nd last year in the Hangzhou Open. So this guy can play a lot of competition. He can start really, really well. He's actually 21st in the ranking on the European Tour, which is just absolutely crazy. And he's ranked roughly in the range, depending on which metric you look at about 185 on the OWGR. So this guy is really steadily climbing the rankings. Hasn't looked super good in the recent form, but it's got a 14, a 20th, a 5th, and a 6th here scattered. So I think he can really surpass that. I'm kind of locking that in. And then I also have Tyler Duncan. Ayoro was 61. Tyler Duncan, 130-1. If you really look at the Puerto Rico Open, it's a bunch of 40-year-olds and a bunch of 20-year-olds. And he's a guy that's been on the PGA Tour and has performed really well. It's been a staple. Held a card for a number of stretches. He's playing well. 7th last week in Argentina. 3 top 26s or better in his last 4 starts. T23 here last year and 3rd at Corrales. And on a lot of the other comp courses, he's done really well. He won on the RSM on the PGA Tour, so he can score really low. For 131, you're giving me a vet of this magnitude. I'm taking that and sprinkling it all day.
That's fair. Those are good options. First guy is a name that a lot of people will recognize because we've highlighted him a lot. But Michael Thorbjornsen is 40-1 in this field. More so than anything else, it's the fact that he is as good of a legitimate PGA Tour golfer in this field than anything else. I think he's got great iron play, and he could honestly potentially overpower Puerto Rico, and that could be fun. The flyer I took was Aaron Baddeley. So the way it works with Arnold Palmer is they play on Paspalum greens.
Puerto Rico.
What's up?
Puerto Rico.
What did I say?
Arnold Palmer.
Oh, geez, yeah. Can you tell him in the zone? For Puerto Rico, though, they play on Paspalum greens. Aaron Baddeley is actually the 2nd best putter in this field on putting in Paspalum greens. His odds are 125-1. I think it's Puerto Rico. Anybody has won these tournaments. You can really sneak one out from nowhere, even if you're one of those 40-year-olds. And I think if you're giving somebody a peak putting week, could be the guy who's 2nd best in the field at 125.
Yeah, I think again, if you're like me and you're a degenerate, there's some names to watch in here. Like Nicholas Norgard is in here. You have Adam Svensson, Quade Cummins, who's going to be a staple here in the next 10 years. Mattai Schmidt, Michael Thorbjornsen, Takumi Kanaya, Lanto Griffin, Wesley Bryan, Thriston Lawrence. I can go on the list. I mean, Taylor Montgomery, who almost just won last week before he just imploded.
Yeah.
ADDC from Illinois. I mean, there's just Cam Champ is in here. Like, there's guys that you can absolutely watch in here. I'm surprised you didn't take Norgard as your winner, but
I thought about it, but I like Thorbjornsen as well. I thought about doing both of them, but it would have felt cheating to take two of like the top 5 guys in the field.
yeah, so those are guys that have 4 guys that I would probably look out for. In terms of everything, I probably wouldn't bet winners. If you're gonna bet this like a degenerate, I'd bet top 20 because that's out on Monday night. I'm sure more will come out, but
yeah, no, I think top 20s are probably the better options to go with. But with that, enjoy the API. Enjoy Puerto Rico. It's fun week. We get double the golf, which is always nice.
We get 1x the golf. We're gonna watch the API.
Yeah. We get 1.5 the golf, and we're really only going to focus on the 1, not really the 0.5. But it's great because this is the highlight for next week for the players, which Jack knows very well. So with that, that's the API. We'll leave you to it. We'll see you next week. Deuces.